What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the tower. So today, I'm going to be going over a few different methods of reroll farming. The main thing that makes it possible is the fact that the fleets drop a lot of reroll shards. So I'm going to be going over a bunch of different methods, ranging through tier 17 all the way up to tier 21. And hopefully you'll be able to find the most efficient method for your tower. So I'm going to first show you the exact drop rates from fleets, and then also when they spawn. So as you can see here, the fleets drop a certain amount of reroll shards on each tier, which is an 80% chance. And then if they don't actually drop the reroll shards, they will drop regular module shards instead. It's not too many, so I'm not actually going to be covering the rates on those in this video, but it's a nice little extra bonus, I guess. And then as you can see, they start spawning at different times in each tier, and also spawn more frequently on the higher tiers. So farming for reroll shards gets a lot more efficient as you go up in the tiers, since they drop more and then they spawn more often as well. Before I start, I want to go over a few things. So the first one is the fact that there's a chance that the fleet drops are based off your reroll shard lab. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it seems like the numbers are pretty close to 10 times what a boss or an elite would drop. So I'm not exactly sure on that. Someone would have to test this without the max lab, but the chart I did show you is based off the max level reroll shard lab, if that actually does affect how much they drop. I'm also not going to be including the game speed perk in my calculations. So if you're able to get this for any of your farming, it will be more efficient than what I say it would be. And then lastly, it also may vary a little bit based on your wave skip mastery. I have my wave skip mastery maxed, so if you don't have this maxed, my rates will probably be a little bit higher than what you will actually get. So just keep note of all that while I'm going over all the methods. And yeah, let's get into it. So I can't really show this first method, but the first one is just doing 100% idle farming, which I think a lot of people will want to do since you don't actually have to actively play the game. I think this starts being viable on tier 18. So you pretty much just go in with no intro sprint and just run the tier until you die. Since these higher tiers can spawn a lot more fleets, you will see a lot more and you will get a lot more drops. I do suggest running like a tournament setup if you do this though, since the rates are going to be a lot better at the higher tiers, of course. It's pretty much based on like the higher you can get, the better your reroll shard rates are going to be. I can't say any specific numbers. It's going to be completely dependent on how far you can get and what tier you're doing. But I would say a tier is viable if you can get around 5 spawns of fleets. So the 5th spawn in tier 18 is at wave 495. On tier 19, that's wave 245. And then on tier 20 and tier 21, that's at wave 45. And then you also do need the auto retry for this method, since you won't be able to restart the run otherwise. So these idle methods are overall good. It's really nice that you don't actually have to touch anything, but the rates are definitely a lot lower than you would be than doing some of the more active methods that I will go over more in depth here. But if you don't have any time to do anything, this is still really nice just to get some extra reroll shards. It's just not super efficient. I don't think the idle method is viable on tier 17 or below. The spawns are just way too far out. The first spawn in tier 17 is at wave 500, so that's not going to be super efficient at all. Yeah, there's not much more for the idle methods, that's pretty much it. Pretty simple, but not super efficient. So moving on to the regular methods, which are active and you actually have to be watching the game. The higher the tier you go, the more you're going to have to click. So I will start off with tier 17. I do think it is viable here. It's not that many reroll shards still, but it's better than nothing. So for tier 17, you do want to have intro sprint and wave skip on. And the idea of these active methods is you get to the first fleet spawn as quickly as you can, and then you kill it and restart the run. So instead of having to wait between fleet spawns, you just restart the run so you can get to that first spawn faster. So the first fleet in tier 17 spawns at wave 495. So we're going to be ending intro sprint at wave 490. So you do need to be able to survive that long during intro sprint in tier 17 just so you can farm this. I have also tested if fleets that spawn during intro sprint will drop reroll shards after intro sprint ends, and they do not. So you can't actually skip to 500 with intro sprint and then end it and kill the fleet. That won't work. So you do have to end intro sprint before the fleet actually spawns. Nuke is also good to have for this, just so you can kill the fleet right away. Makes it a little bit more efficient. Okay, so it's about to be wave 490. You go to 490, you end the intro sprint, and then the fleet spawns on wave 495. Wave skips won't influence this too much since most of the run is intro sprint, but it will make it slightly more efficient still. So yeah, there's the fleet. I'm going to use the nuke, and then I end the round. And as you can see, I made 1.5k reroll shards in 6 minutes and 49 seconds. That's about how long it'll usually be. And I have done the math for all the tiers that I'm going over here. So this is around 10 to 11,000 per hour and 250 to 260,000 per day. Not super efficient, but if you can't do the tier 18 method, this is probably going to be your best bet. But you do only need to go 100 waves in tier 18. So I actually think that might be more viable for everybody. So moving on to tier 18, it's pretty much the same thing. Like I said, the first fleet spawns at wave 95. So you will end intro sprint at wave 90 and do the same thing as you did for tier 17. So ending intro sprint and then waiting for the fleet to spawn. So there's the fleet, hit nuke, and end the round. I think I did get reroll shards from an elite as well. That won't normally happen though. So you would normally have 1650 here. It is only an 80% chance. So I did find the averages that you will get every time you reach a fleet spawn. I'll just say that as I go. So on average tier 17, once you get to wave 495, you should get 1,200. The average for tier 18 is 1,320. So for doing this method in tier 18, on average, it's around 45 to 50,000 rerolls per hour and around 1.1 to 1.2 million per day. I will also show a chart at the end of the video that kind of has all this info on it, just to kind of summarize all the methods and how efficient they are. So moving on to tier 19, this time we're going to end intro sprint at wave 40, since the first fleet spawns on wave 45. So ending intro sprint here, and then killing the fleet with nuke. I got lucky with the wave skips that time. So 1,800 reroll shards in less than a minute. I think normally this is closer to a minute. I just got a lot of wave skips there. But I did find the rates. So for tier 19, on average this is around 80 to 85,000 per hour and around 1.9 to 2.1 million rerolls per day. So moving on to tier 20 and tier 21. So these tiers are actually a lot more efficient and a lot easier to do if you actually have them unlocked. Unlike tier 17 through tier 19, you don't actually need to be able to survive the certain amount of waves. So if you can just unlock these at all, they're really good for farming rerolls. You will not be using intro sprint either. So the method is the same, but I will still just show you, just to show the rates. So you start tier 20, you can use demon mode right away, and then you just go to wave 5 and use nuke, and then you can restart. So there's our fleet, just use nuke and the round. So almost 2,000 reroll shards in 32 seconds. The tier 20 and tier 21 methods are really efficient, but they do take a lot of actual work. You have to be actively playing. Pretty much restarting the round 2 times every minute. That's about the average, I would say. So for tier 20, doing this method, you will get around 230 to 240,000 per hour. And that's around 5.5 to 5.7 million per day. That's already a lot. Even if you can't unlock tier 21, this is still a really good method. And like I said, you don't actually need to be able to survive. You can just use demon mode right away, which will take you to wave 5. And then you can kill the fleet and restart. You also don't have to switch off your farming setup for this, since you don't actually need the damage or anything. And then having the auto demon mode on death is also nice, just so you don't have to manually click that. But even then, there's a chance that second wind is enough to get you to wave 5. Then it's cutting it a lot closer. It's not that hard, it's just one extra click. And since you're already clicking a lot and ending the round a lot, then it's not too much extra work. So moving on to tier 21. This is where it gets really good. The rates are super good on tier 21. It's the exact same method as tier 20, but you get double the fleet spawns, and they actually drop more each. So it's the same thing, you start the round, and you use demon mode, and then get to wave 5 and use nuke. So yeah, there's 2 fleets this time. You can end the round, and then you can see 4,200 reroll shards in 32 seconds. That was with no wave skips as well, so this is going to be usually the lowest rates, unless you miss one of the reroll shard drops. I did forget to say the average drops for tier 19 and tier 20. The average you'll get per fleet spawn in tier 19 is 1,440. In tier 20, it's 1,560. And in tier 21, it's 3,360. So that's a lot higher since you do get the double spawns and they do drop more. But as you can see here, if you do get both the drops on a certain attempt, then you will get 4,200. So even just having tier 21 unlocked, this is super good rates. Tier 21 is just pretty hard to unlock though, so I don't think this is going to be really viable for a lot of people. But this is super nice, of course, if you can do this. So the rates for tier 21 are 450 to 550,000 rerolls per hour, and that's around 11.5 to 12.5 million per day. So it's a really good reroll shards, but it's a lot of work to actually restart the round that often. So on the screen right now is the rates for the methods that I mentioned, per hour and per day, and then also the average rerolls you'll get from each fleet spawn on each tier. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you do need rerolls yourself, I hope one of these methods will work out for you, whether it be one of the idle methods or one of the more hands-on methods. But luckily there's a lot of options. So yeah, if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. And yeah, see ya.